state funeral for slain former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is taking place. Prime Minister Modi is also attending that funeral. Japan bidding farewell to its longest serving Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who was killed in July. He was assassinated. Now, this funeral has been controversial as there's been opposition, public opposition to the cost of this entire event, which is where, you have so many state leaders and international guests who are attending this funeral. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is there, US Vice President Kamala Harris, British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly are among the foreign dignitaries and world leaders who are attending the state funeral of Shinzo Abe. The other reason it is controversial is that state funerals were reserved for members of the imperial family, but since the World War, you had only one state funeral taking place, and that too in 1967. Shinzo Abe was gunned down at an election rally in July, and Japan mourned for him. Remember, Prime Minister Modi has also expressed his sadness, and he's spoken of Shinzo Abe as a good friend to India and a good friend to him personally. No one served longer in the Prime Minister's office than Shinzo Abe, and no other post-war politician has had such an impact on Japan's position in the world. So Prime Minister Modi, who earlier held a bilateral with the Japanese Prime Minister, attending this state funeral. More than 4,000 guests are attending this service that is taking place at the Nippon Budokan area in Tokyo. And as we said, several world leaders and diplomats are there. But ahead of the state funeral, there was also public protests against it. Nearly more than 1,000 people took to the streets in anti-funeral protests, really illustrating the deep divide over this state funeral taking place in Tokyo. Since Abe's assassination, the country has faced rising inflation and also revelations of Japan's ruling party members that half of them had ties to the controversial Unification Church, which has faced backlash over fundraising practices. Prime Minister Modi arrived in Tokyo this morning, and he also met his Japanese counterpart Fumio Kishida, also conveying his deepest condolences over the sudden death of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. You can see Prime Minister Modi there also paying tribute to the slain former Prime Minister of Japan. The Prime Minister, in his meeting with Kishida, also underlined the late Japanese leader's contributions in strengthening the bilateral partnership, as well as his vision of a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific region. During that bilateral earlier, the two leaders had renewed their commitment towards further strengthening India-Japan special strategic and global partnership, and also working together in the region in various international groupings and institutions. Prime Minister Narendra Modi attending the state funeral of Shinzo Abe. He is one of several global leaders who are there.
और अभी हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं
20 heads of state are attending Shinzo Abe's funeral. You also have US Vice President Kamala Harris, British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, among the foreign dignitaries who are attending the state funeral of the assassinated former Prime Minister of Japan, the longest-serving Prime Minister Japan has had. As we said, the funeral itself has kicked off a controversy there in Japan. There's been strong public opposition to the ceremony. There were even public demonstrations against this funeral, given the huge cost also to the state exchequer. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is also in attendance at the state funeral. The state funeral started at 10:30 a.m. India time, and it started with Shinzo Abe's widow entering the state funeral hall carrying the urn that contained her husband's ashes and placed in a wooden box. World leaders there queued up to pay their respects. Prime Minister Modi also paying his respects to the former Japanese Prime Minister.